So I got a great question the other day from Arun over in Kerala, India. He's saying, Antonio, followed your videos for last year, love them. I've got a fragrance question. My three main fragrances are Dior Sauvage, Ultra Male, and Club de Nuit Intense. Now, I spray this 2 on my chest, 2 behind the ear, 1 spray on the back of the neck, and occasionally 2 sprays on each collar. That being said, after 1 to 2 hours, I don't smell anything. What is the problem? Now, Arun, first off, thank you for asking a good question. I love how you gave me the specifics, exactly how you apply the fragrance, and specifically what fragrances you're talking about. It just so turns out I have all of those fragrances, so I know how they perform, and that's going to allow me to better diagnose your issue. So my first thought here is that you've become nose blind. And what this means is you become accustomed to the scent. Once you put it on, after a few minutes, you stop detecting it because your body basically drowns it out. And it does this because it wants you to be able to pick up other things. And this is something we naturally do. Think about it. You go over to your grandmother's house. You know what that house smells like. Everyone's got this smell that they associate with certain things. But once we walk in and we're in that situation, you're at your grandmother's house for 10 minutes, you stop smelling it. Why? Because you become accustomed to it. My advice before you put on any more fragrance, because it sounds like you're putting on enough, is to ask those around you, hey, do you actually smell the fragrance I'm wearing? You may be surprised to find out that everyone smells you just fine. In fact, you're choking out a few people, but you just don't smell yourself because you've become accustomed to it. Next up, it could be the fragrances you have are counterfeit. So counterfeit fragrances, like the name sounds, they are not real. They're imitations, and the reason being is these things are sold for well over $100. There are fragrances out there that are selling for hundreds of dollars, and there's money to be made by making something that looks like the real thing and putting something in there that's not real but smells somewhat nice. And a lot of people don't know the difference. And these are sold, believe it or not, some of them make it to stores. Now, you can look at the bottom of some fragrances and look at batch codes, and there's a lot of internet research that you could do to be able to identify what's real. I like to just buy from authorized resellers that I like to believe are doing a good job of keeping the counterfeits out. Now, that being said, I don't think you have counterfeits. And the reason being is you mentioned this fragrance right here, Club de Nuit Intense. Man, this is a clone, as many of you guys know, of Creed Aventus. Now, if you had said this one that cost hundreds of dollars, there's money to be made there. They make counterfeits of this one. Legitimately, you could actually have thought you bought something real and you were sold a clone or a counterfeit. But this one right here, and let me make the difference. This is a clone. This is a legitimate, they said, hey, we are copying Creed Aventus, except we're selling it at a much lower price. And because this, you can find legitimate copies for 30 to 40 bucks or maybe even less used if you get a secondhand bottle. Point being is, I don't think there's enough money to make counterfeits of this one. Now, guys, I know you've got an opinion, so let me hear from you down in the comments. What are your favorite long-lasting fragrances, and what are your tips and tricks for getting a fragrance to last longer? So what else could be an issue of why the fragrance isn't lasting? In my opinion, it could be an old copy of Club de Nuit. This could have been something left out in the sun, and the sun is what's going to damage your fragrance. It goes right through, not only heats up the liquid, but it actually goes through and it hits some of the molecules in there, causes a little bit of reactions. Basically, it breaks it down, and it can make the fragrance go bad. So it could be that you've had something that was just left out, and over time, it just damaged the fragrance, and it loses a lot of its potency. Another issue could be the concentration. I'm assuming with Dior Sauvage, you have the EDT. So as many of you guys know, the EDT is going to be one of the weaker versions of the fragrance. Right up above the EDT, we have the EDP. This is going to have about twice of the essence of the perfume in it. So it's going to have a higher concentration. In theory, this doesn't always hold true, but this should be stronger and it should last longer. And if you want the most strong, you're going to go with the Perfume. The Perfume, this is going to be about 20 to 30% concentration. It's almost double the other ones. Now, what I've noticed in this is it doesn't necessarily last longer, but it is a bit sweeter. But, to each his own, some people are going to argue. But in general, remember, the EDT is going to be the weakest, the Perfume or the EDP much stronger. So at this point, if none of this applies to you, like Antonio, I have a legitimate copy. I have the Perfume. This is strong stuff. It is not old. It has not been damaged. And so what else can be going on? It could be your body chemistry. And this is something that happens with certain people. When they put on a fragrance, it just does not last on them. It could be something that your body and the oils on your body, just simply, it doesn't work. I know for some people, they say about Le Male or Ultramall right here, and I've got Le Male as well, that these do not last as long if they've got really oily skin. So it could be your situation. And I know other people that talk about, even Creed Aventus, the original stuff, or the Club de Nuit. Let's look at your environment. That's the next thing that we can talk about. You're in a hot area. You said Kerala. Now, I know Kerala is relatively moist. You're over near the water. So usually it's the desert that they deal with this more, but in general, if it's hot, it's going to evaporate quicker. So that could be having a big effect on how long your fragrance is lasting. So with all that being said, and if your fragrance checks out, it's legit, you still don't know what the issue is, but you love your fragrances, you want to smell better in the second half of the day, well, here's a quick hack. Take your fragrance, take that lid off, and get one of those travel atomizers. I love these things right here. Basically, it attaches right there. I just squeeze it a few times and it fills this up, and boom, you've got this travel atomizer. You can find these for $5, $10. Just look around. This right here is amazing. It's so simple to be able to take your favorite fragrance with you on the go. Now, you did mention you were putting quite a few sprays on your body, but let me ask, are you spraying anything on your clothing? Now, I'm not saying that you should do additional sprays. You're already doing 7, but I am saying that how about we put a few sprays on a sweater or on a shirt, on that jacket instead? And this is why. When you spray directly on the body, those heat points, yes, initially it comes off and it evaporates and it makes that scent stronger, but it's not going to last as long on your body because your body, besides you probably showering daily, it's also something you just got the heat coming off versus the clothing. I've had certain sweaters that when I've sprayed with Ultramall, I pick it up days later. But here's the trick. Don't spray close. You don't want to be 1 to 2 inches. You want to have about 6 inches of separation between you and the spray nozzle and your clothing because there is a little bit of oil dissolved in that alcohol and you don't want to get any type of stains on your clothing. Now, at this point, you may be asking, Antonio, how do I apply fragrance correctly? What are the mistakes I want to avoid? Well, I've got you covered in this video right here. I show you everything you need to know on not just how to apply the fragrance, but how much to apply so that you don't choke anybody out. And so, yeah, you avoid the most common mistakes out there. Check out this video, guys. It's a good one.